Hey everyone! This is Penny again.
My name is Francis.
Francis.
Hello and
Thank you for listening in or
welcome.
watching. If you're on YouTube, watching our podcast, YouTube channel, outsourcing, and more. So today, what's our topic for today, Francis?
We have a very I wouldn't say special topic, but the
Yes.
topic that's near and dear
Yes, it
to
is.
our hearts, and a lot of you guys who are both business owners handling agencies, or if you're a regular, not regular, if you're an
Entrepreneur.
entrepreneur,
Yeah.
a solopreneur, you're working for yourself, you are freelancing. This should be a topic that maybe you have thought about,
Yes.
brought up, maybe discussed with your other solopreneur friends. Our topic is called virtual assistants and clients finding the perfect match.
Yes.
Yes. So
I
we
think
are in a dating service.
Yeah. Well, as I've said before, hiring or hiring for someone for a company or a client of ours, it does seem like a matchmaking service, right?
It
Because they do have
is.
preferences. There are things that how they are, which they need to be compatible with if they're
Mhm.
hiring for a virtual assistant.
To build up to it, um, I mean, our business is technically centered around uh, matching people
Yes,
together,
matching people
right?
together. Yeah.
We know people who need people. People are people. Yeah, but and the of course the problem is how to find this. I mean, a lot of people do this on their own.
Yes.
They look for people who think they will be able to work with. But there's also a reason why businesses like ours exist. I
Yes.
mean, not that this is our main bread and butter. We are more tier one, first line support. But to you know how the term VAs or virtual assistants is.
It's actually
It's
just thrown
so,
around.
yeah, it's been thrown around
Yeah.
everywhere.
But what exactly is a
Even
virtual assistant?
exactly, and that's the question. How people are throwing the term left and right, even if you don't know it. Like
Yes.
my grandmother knows
Knows
it.
it really?
No, I don't have a grandmother, but you know what? Your grandmas can
They'd
throw the
probably, yeah,
term
yeah,
around.
yeah.
Yun ba yung VA na tinatawag?
Yes. Yes, they've heard it.
They've heard about the term. But the thing is, even they, if you have heard about it, the term, they know somebody who's worked as a VA, it's still very hard to sort of like
Been,
pinpoint
yeah, yes.
what
It's
exactly.
like a catch-all term.
Very catch-all.
Catch-all term,
So let's
yeah.
start with how most people would understand VAs are. So to define the term, you have the word virtual and then the word
Assistant.
assistant. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's
So
you're
it's a
welcome.
gamut.
You're welcome. That's it.
Let me put that in the Webster dictionary. Virtual assistant,
Yeah,
you're working
virtual.
virtual
Just-
and you're an assistant.
yeah. So virtual assistants on its core,
Mm.
you're working for either a business or an individual, an
Yes.
entity,
Yes.
and you're doing tasks that are assigned by said entity or
Mm.
business. And by virtue of doing those tasks, you're assisting them
Yes.
in their growth, their success,
Yes.
and hence the term. But the problem is a lot of people don't actually understand how broad,
The term,
because
yeah.
what I said
Yes.
is
It's
literally
very,
very
very,
general.
yes.
Yeah. Uh, uh,
But let's, the first thing that comes to mind,
mm,
admin tasks,
admin
right?
tasks
And coding.
and coding. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And
So
coding, data
initially, I think
entry.
it really started out. So in terms of outsourcing, you have people who are trying to rise above
Mm.
what the position that they're trying to be.
Yes.
Especially if you're a business person. A lot of these people start out by themselves.
Yeah.
Solopreneurs
Yes.
was one of the terms that was being thrown around. I think circa
It's still being
2014.
used. Come
Yeah,
on.
yes, but that was like the hot term
Yeah.
back when people were learning about real estate. There was such a
Yes.
boom in the
The real
real
estate,
estate industry
yeah.
that people say, you are a businessman. Yes,
Yes.
you're by yourself, but
Yes.
you're running your business.
Yes.
Therefore, you are a solopreneur.
Yes.
But the problem with being a one man business is you then have to deal with all of the ins and outs. Obviously there's grunt work,
Yeah.
and then there's the kind of business that takes you to new
Yes.
levels.
The
And
forest for the trees. Yes.
yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
And I think both of us have kind of experienced this as well when
We're
we're doing
duopreneurs.
we're we're doing everything for the
We
business,
oh
right?
my
Like
god.
every single thing, the research, like
We did
every
we
single
did the first
thing.
iteration of the
Yes.
website.
Yes.
We
Oh
set up
yes.
the
Oh my god,
Facebook
yes.
page. We took
Yeah,
the
Facebook page. Yes, we did. We
took
set
some
it up.
and
Like every single thing.
yeah,
And then
every
you kind
single
of
thing.
realize that
You
you
can't
can't.
you can't think macro
Yes, if you're doing all
if
of
you're
these
doing
different
all
things,
of
yeah.
the
If you're very much in the
groundwork. If yeah,
weeds.
exactly. If you're right there on the ground, you have no time to think about the big thing, the big
Yes.
picture.
Which as entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, whatever term you call yourself,
Mm.
right, is very important for you to grow your business, to scale your business.
You can't just be running the business as it
You
is.
can't
The big picture
you
is
can't work
always
in the business, which is like
okay. Let's no, but
anyway.
yeah. However, so there's both a pro and a con
Yes.
to that. I mean, I'm always admittedly said, I love being on the ground with
Yes,
the
of course.
agents.
Because you're
Yes,
very much in touch with everything that's happening.
yes. Now the problem there is you have some of these solopreneurs who are like, and then just to define the different kinds of people who you might end up working with. Some of these businessmen are like, I don't care how it gets done, I just need it done.
Yeah.
And a lot of times they need it done yesterday.
Yes. Yes, they do.
Yeah.
And that's why they do most of them do consider getting a virtual assistant.
Yeah, and but again, leading up to that, see the way that I see these business people, the guys who need virtual
Yeah.
assistants, need definition themselves.
Yes.
Because like I said, you have these people who are
Absolutely.
super laid back. I don't need it.
Yeah.
But there are also the ones um who are very much involved
Yes.
with the process. Like
Yes. And I'm
ye-
smiling really big here.
hi. But you have people who would like work with you. I hired you for your specialization.
Yes.
And then the moment that they start working, it's like, it's a little too far to the left, a little bit to the
Yeah,
right.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
no, 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 I'm going to let you do your thing, yes. But can you just move it just a little bit, tiny bit up?
Yeah.
They can't seem to keep their hands away
Yes.
from the work. They have trouble letting go of the little things.
Yes.
And the reason I say that is because we go back to this like right fit
Yes.
scenarios in the same manner that a lot of businessmen, business people,
Yes.
have their own styles. A
Yes.
lot of VAs
They have
also
to
have their own.
they really
style.
have to know their own strengths or
Mhm.
their own personality and what they're actually looking for or what type of person they would work well with.
Yeah. So I'm going to mesh that with what we said earlier, having such a broad topic. Virtual assistants now, when you as a resource can also be very broad. You can't just
Yes.
throw around your resume and say, I'm a very
Virtual,
experienced
yes.
VA.
Or even as a businessman or business person, you can't just say I need
I'm
a VA.
looking for a VA. Exactly. I'm gonna take the VA side. Or but let's go back. What kind of jobs do VAs actually do? When you say broad, it's really broad. I am so sorry.
And-
We don't have enough time in the world to
Yeah.
discuss how much
There's
of that.
just a lot.
So we'll focus on some of the key items. You remember back in the corporate days when you have the executive assistant.
Yes, exactly.
And that's basically what the term is. You just took away the EA from the
because-
office.
But you're definitely working for the CEOs,
Yes,
executive
you're
level.
working
Yeah.
for upper management, business owners, president, CEOs, or any of the O's.
Yes.
CEOs, CTOs. They need to focus on their bigger picture. Therefore, they need to let go of the
Yes.
things that they're needing. So, and that's the reason why the job varies so much. CEOs would probably require research work or
Mm-hmm.
uh, you know,
Or
how to
even
keep
just
them as a person sort of work,
yeah,
managing
like
their
managing the calendar,
calendars,
yeah.
managing
And
their
you know we
inbox.
need this, right?
I wish I had three of them,
But
but
yeah, managing the
that's there.
calendar, their
Yeah.
emails, because a
Mm.
lot of are coming in, not necessarily a lot of urgent matters come in, or a
But
lot
when
of
they do
important.
come in, we
We
want
have
somebody handling
yes,
them. And then, say for example, if you have a chief marketing officer, you know how like a lot of these like if you're a startup, or again
mm-hmm.
a solo person, but you're still doing marketing, so
Yes,
you're handling your CEO
CEO,
and CMO
and
stuff all by yourself. But in those different aspects, also comes a slew of different tasks. If
yes,
you're chief marketing, then you're handling
market
possibly market
research,
research,
yeah,
outbound
social
sales,
media.
social media, social
So
media.
like even just getting the reports from your social media analytics, I'm not gonna.
Don't try to
No,
do.
no, no, no,
We're
no.
just gonna end up in laughing
You're still
fits.
on a roll
I
today.
am
Yeah. Anyway, yeah. So for a CMO, that might be what you need from a virtual assistant.
exactly.
Yeah.
And you just can't say again, I need a VA, and then
Yes.
start telling them that. So what I need are for you to answer messenger
Yes.
inquiries, Instagram inquiries, message these different influencers,
Yes.
give me tasks, I'm gonna give you tasks that are related to this. The VA has to match the skill set.
Yes.
And sometimes the problem is again, you might not be adept at that particular skill set. Let's take for example one of our biggest uh, industries, the
Mm-hmm.
real estate market.
Yeah.
So even then, I think sometimes the problem is, and actually just diving into this because we've done a lot of these like matching
Yeah.
processes. Sometimes they'd say I'm experienced in real estate, and then you look at like
What
which
exactly?
part of real
Real
estate
estate.
are
Yeah.
you
Yeah. Yeah.
experienced in? And there's a lot of that. Let's start with the real estate, the actual nitty gritties of doing real estate. You have like for example, researching properties,
Yeah. Keeping tabs
keeping
of your contacts.
market value, market.
Do you
Sorry,
mean the
like when
CMAs?
you're comping
CMAs.
proper CMAs. Thank you.
Competitive market analysis. Yeah.
Yeah, and then putting together offers, and then actually
Yes.
calling buyers and sellers. And
Probably
that's a
not.
lot.
Probably not the buyers calling buyers and sellers. Just because it's
No,
it's
but
there.
again, that's part of
It could, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
breadth of it, because some real estate people get VAs, and that's the part that they need help with.
Yes.
Like looking at the market, they calling. I mean, there was a time when I was calling like, "Hi, I'm calling about your property in so and so
Yes.
address, and I just wanted to let you know that we've done our research based on blah blah blah, and that our
Because there's
offer
a lot that
is."
goes to real estate. Like there's a lot. Like there's a lot.
Yeah.
There's a lot. But anyway, where are we going?
We were going into the type of matching
Yeah.
that for me, from the highest perspective, determines, what are you going to have a great relationship, is it
Yes.
going to flop.
So I think
uh
what we've mentioned so far is for you as a business owner or whoever you are who's wanting to have a VA, you need to define for yourself, why do I need this VA for? What tasks? It might not be the same task that VA is going to be doing like long term, but you still need to have an idea of what you want this VA to do for you.
and sometimes that's where your relationship is doomed from the start. It's like, I have been referred to you because I need
A VA.
a VA, a virtual assistant. They're like, okay, great. What do you need a VA for? Because I need a VA to do certain tasks for me, and that's the problem. And they say certain
Certain
tasks,
tasks.
and they can't go beyond.
Yeah.
Like, sometimes I find myself needing someone to do something. And I'm like, oh my god, I can see this going.
And that's hard because at some point, if it's just like that, if you haven't defined it yourself, at some point you're gonna grasp for things for this
Yeah.
VA to do.
You just know that you need someone to do something.
Yeah.
But the problem is when you start shelling out the money
Yeah.
for a VA that you either said I'm going to keep you for, say, at the beginning 4 hours a day,
Mm.
and we'll move on to 8 hours a day. You think you have a lot of
Mm.
tasks to do, but when it like now that he's here, like now what? And you're like, okay, I just need to do this, and you think that's a lot, but you'll realize it's like what, a
That's
three
not.
hour job
Yeah.
that
That's.
doesn't that wouldn't even take like a week for a very experienced
Mm.
VA to do. And when you say very experienced, that's assuming that you got a VA who knows
Yeah.
exactly what to do.
Who knows exactly what to do and has done a lot of tasks, not just this one task. And I also think that if what am I going to say? No, the other pitfall, if you don't define,
What?
if you
So
don't
I keep
define
trying
it.
to find like a good angle to look at you.
No, the other pitfall, if you don't kind of define it as well,
Mm-hmm.
is that once you get that VA,
Mm-hmm.
you don't actually know what they're good at and what tasks you can actually give
Ooh,
them.
ooh, ooh,
Right?
ooh.
You're
There,
going to get confused. You're going to assign something to them, and then it comes back.
there's that other half when you don't know what they're capable of,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and you just
Assume
assume
that
that
it's you limit the scope of what they're
if I give
doing.
a task that you'll know what to do, and it's not, I mean, I've had that same problem
Yes.
when you get a VA and say I need you to do this, and
Mm.
that you give them a few days, and then after a few days they're like, here's here's what you asked me to do, and I was like,
That's
what?
not
That's
what I
not what I
meant.
asked for,
Yeah, that's not
or
what I meant. That's
yeah, or it's a pale like if you compare it side by side, this is what I wanted. It's like, expectations versus
just yeah.
reality. Uh, like, imagine the worst meme that you have regarding expectation versus reality,
Mm.
and that's sometimes what we've seen. So just some things that we've learned from in terms of our own experience, and like why is it so important to not just and you mean not just take a person who says I'm a VA at face value.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and you really wanna think about it so much, and I think from a hiring perspective, that's where I feel like we've personally grown,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you look at the resume, and if that person, because at this point we're even trying to interview for people, and it doesn't matter if we don't have the right contract for this person. We want to
Yes.
keep them on file, but you know what I found most important at this point is that sometimes your VA doesn't even know what they can do.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they do have, they know some of the skills. They might have the right attitude. Well, they should have the right attitude.
Should.
Yeah. But, things can be learned. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if
And
you're the
that's
type
also
of,
that's a very
wait,
important skill.
but if you're the type of business person, executive that doesn't have the time to train,
Mhm.
then you can't hire for that kind of VA.
That's very unfortunate, because we've always told ourselves, and the people who've been asking, like, is there a way to start as a virtual assistant? And it was like, oh boy, here we go. Because yes, the answer is yes.
Yes.
If you want to become a virtual assistant, you absolutely
Yeah.
can. If you've assisted anybody at any point in your life, even if it's like minor tasks, like I help my mom balance her books, for
Yes.
example, or I know what my like, starting with mom. But I know what she needs even before she asks for it. Those are actually very important, critical tasks, like
Yeah.
being sensitive to your client's needs.
I mean, to be completely honest, like even just planning for your personal travel and you do the itinerary, you book the tickets and whatnot, that's like also part
Yeah,
for some,
and
right?
I super appreciate that, because
Yeah.
like if I'm like a lot of clients, like when they travel and they find themselves traveling and booking stuff at the last minute,
Yeah.
they will fall in love with a VA
Can do that for
who
them.
can
And
do,
yeah.
yeah, I booked your ticket, I booked your hotel, here's your itinerary, here's where you'll be checking in, I also scheduled an Uber for
Yeah,
you.
exactly. Like thinking of everything
Yeah,
for
that
the
they need
executive. Yeah.
before they even ask for it
Mm-hmm.
is, I think, one of the core. If there was a like the core tenets of being a VA, that would
But
be.
I mean, just about that topic, it does. There are things that need to happen to lead up to that point.
Yeah,
Like, of course,
growth.
no, it's what I'm getting at is the judgment calls
Oh
part
yeah.
of it. Um,
Oh
the
yeah.
the executive's judgment call for and we're just talking about the itineraries because it's I think everyone kind of understands.
How hard it
Yeah,
is to book
yeah,
a
um,
trip.
yeah. So as an executive, I might have preferences of how I want my travel to be
Oh,
organized.
I know where you're getting
Yeah,
at.
travel to be organized, and that what if there's a hiccup, right?
Yeah.
Do I want that hiccup to be escalated to me or not anymore?
Like,
And
I
what is
don't want you to bring that to me. Bring it up with my VA. She'll know what to do.
yeah,
That would be like the dream, I think.
but what I'm
This is giving me
saying,
like Miranda Priestley
yeah, no,
vibes. So
no,
she
but
keep coming back to Devil Wears Prada. It's
yes.
like, get me home.
No, what I'm saying is
Yes.
before it gets to that point,
Mhm.
you need the VA and you, the client, they need to have a really strong relationship for the
Mhm.
VA to be able to predict what
What
does
this?
my boss want?
Yeah.
What do they prefer?
Yeah. So just before you move into that, so let's start with uh when say finding the perfect match. We earlier talked about
Defining, yeah.
how important it is to be able to really really define what the
Yes.
relationship is going to be.
Yes.
So if I am this kind of person, if I'm wearing multiple hats, well, I need a VA who can wear the same number of hats,
Yes.
or maybe has that experience to, even if you say I am untrained, which honesty very important. I am not trained in what you're asking for, but if you have the patience
At least
uh
show me, or do you
to
have
show me what you
a
need
documentation of how
done,
you did it,
yeah, if
how you
you
decide on it?
walk
Yeah.
me through your whole process, I will learn it.
Yes.
That's fine. You might have the perfect match right there. But if you're the kind of person who says, I don't know how to do that, that might take me a while. Sometimes people have just like little natural pushback. Instead of like, okay, give me the task. I'm
Yeah,
okay
yeah,
with it.
yeah, yeah, I know this.
Both are fine.
Yes.
But it's important for you to understand na I will be this kind of person. Can you work with me?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, and
So,
the other thing that I think we didn't discuss is that both the VA and client needs to know is how often you get in touch with each other.
yeah. Okay.
Right.
But that's
Okay.
later
Yeah. Yeah.
on.
Okay.
So, coming back to coming back to what you're saying now, after being able to really define the relationship, you you have to, I don't know, merge. If you What's that movie, Pacific Rim?
Now we have movie reference. Okay. Go
Yeah,
on. Go ahead. Go
yeah,
ahead.
movie
Go
Pacific Rim. Like,
ahead.
you have two people who need to operate a robot.
Yeah.
You need to like merge and say we need to
To
think
become
as
one.
one person. Yeah. And that's the problem. You know how, really great relationships work is when, like, I know you. I know when you're in a bad mood. I know when to
Mm-hmm.
bring uncomfortable topics to
Mm-hmm.
you. I know when we could
Yeah.
just banter around. It took years to develop that kind of
Yeah.
relationship. Now, we're not a VA client
Yes.
sort of relationship. Maybe sometimes.
But
Either way,
anyway.
yes. But I'm talking about the period, the honeymoon stage
Yes.
of a VA and a client really spending enough time for them to get to know each other.
Yeah.
I think it's a very critical mistake for a person who thinks, this person, I hire you and I expect you to know what I
I'm
will need
Yeah. Or what I'm thinking.
or what I'm thinking of without spending that kind of time.
Yeah.
I mean, there will be some relationships. And like I said, this is the reason why like a lot of these relationships would fail. And sometimes through no fault of either the client or
Or
the
the VA.
VA.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just the fault was they didn't spend enough time to understand each other.
Yeah.
Because, some VAs would be I need to live inside your head
Yeah.
for a bit in order for me to understand what you need from me. But some clients would be just like, I'm gonna give you a set of tasks. I need you to do them,
Yeah.
and sometimes that's
That's it.
all
That's it.
that they need.
Yeah.
But the it it becomes complicated when you need to deal with a client who has whims, or like, I wish my VA would know what I need before I ask for it.
Which
But if
is
you're gonna be that
not
person,
helpful at all.
yeah, if you're gonna be that person, then you need to spend an adequate amount of time with this person to just understand
Yeah.
what you're looking for. That means daily 1 hour check-ins to discuss what the day is gonna be like. Maybe talk about, so today this is what we're gonna be doing.
Yes.
I need you to do this, this, and this. And if for example, can you maybe just order Food Panda if you can, just Uber Eats me
Yeah.
anything. Or if I think my laundry would be here for this day. Like, even if there are a bunch of vague things that you can throw around for the VA to be prepared for within the day. Like, I might be asking you a couple of things. Can you just be available? That would be like super helpful
Yes.
for the VA to know that that I might be expecting you throughout the rest of the day. I might not. But there's always that understanding, that because on the flip side, if you don't want to be bothered and the VA keeps coming back to you and say, "Hi, I did this task. Can
Yeah.
can you check on it?" And you're not that kind of person. You're just like, "Yes, it's okay."
Yeah.
Then it creates
Just do it.
friction.
Yeah. Yeah.
It creates
It
friction
does. It does.
when the VA is just trying to be helpful.
Yes.
And that in itself, yeah, sometimes just, VAs be clingy sometimes. And it's unfair for you to say match yourself with a person who doesn't care about, and you know how sometimes VAs are like, I don't feel appreciated because they don't get pats on the head
Yeah.
for for a job well done. And then sometimes some people are like, I love the flexibility. My boss doesn't look for me,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that as long as I give them the tasks that they have. And we're talking about these like success stories that for me are just oftentimes happy accidents that they got to match in terms of personality.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I think about that all the time, like all the time.
I-
Why are you thinking
No,
about?
yeah, because I started as an executive assistant for Tony.
Yeah.
And I
And
did
that's why
Legion.
that's
And
why
then-
you know exactly how he thinks and how he breathes and
Yeah.
his mood swings. And
Yeah.
what you guys have been at it for like what, 10 years now?
10 years now. Like, started as an executive assistant, did some lead generation for him and even calling clients for them. And then eventually took over the entire support arm.
Exactly.
Right?
Operations
I think that also
and
kinds
site
of
lead.
what we, now site lead, director of remote team, of the remote team. Anyway, that's where I think the point earlier about you can't also limit, like, yes, define it, right? Define what you need from a VA, but also don't limit it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I absolutely agree. But the difference between what we're talking about and your relationship is now is that you guys in the beginning
Yeah, had
took
to
the
adjust.
time to adjust to each
Yes.
other's
Yeah.
moods
Like,
and
now
swings.
now I know what he responds to. Like, he responds to data, he responds to Excel, things like that. And I'm just saying this because it's a personal experience.
Yes.
And he knows this.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? And that's what I appreciate about it. He knows that that's what he responds to.
And a story that I know, I had one person who was like, I'd prepare the reports in slides.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but the client doesn't care.
Yeah.
And I was like, I mean, I guess not painful.
was-
It's just I look at it and say, you're wasting so much time because you're doing this like beautifully presented tasks and results, and you'd ask for like, hi, here's our meeting. Let me just open these slides. These are the tasks that I completed. But it's like the boss doesn't care. It's like, yeah, good. So here's what we're going to
But
do this week.
just on that point, yeah, you are kind of always, but it's also very impressive.
It's impressive.
If it's impressive.
And like I said, I wish, you were matched with a client who would be impressed
Gobsmacked,
with
impressed.
those results, because that's the skill set that you
Yeah, yeah.
have, and you'd rather have a client who would respond to it
Yes.
that way. Like I don't do slides. I can't. No, I mean I do them, but I'd have to have a gun pointed in my head to prepare slides. Like when you do leadership meetings and you're
Mm-hmm.
doing like quarterly analysis and you'd have to prepare slides. You do it, but if I can get away with just hi, so I'm just gonna talk my way through this meeting, I would. Now,
Eh,
see the um, talking about this kind of relationship, VAs and clients. Sometimes, see the thing that I wish didn't matter for a lot of VAs is the urgency to be hired.
yeah.
You know
Yeah.
how doesn't matter if I the kind of confidence that might be the same downfall for that person is like, I'm a VA,
Mm-hmm.
therefore I will apply for this job and I will say I'm a great VA and I will impress the client, and then I will just learn uh what needs to be done on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Used to impress me a lot. Now I'm just like, just find a client who will respond to your skill set. Because the funny thing is sometimes you get through all of those skill sets, and like I said, I'm just gonna pull back a little bit. I wish the urgency to be hired didn't matter as much. So you have the leisure
Really
to
find the
really,
right.
yeah,
Yeah.
find the right
Yeah.
client. Because what I mean, it can hurt, because as a VA, you really you do find yourself investing a lot of your
Energy, your time, your effort, your
and
heart.
emotions.
Is that a heart?
I,
are we
yeah,
playing charades?
not just your skill set, but a lot of yourself.
Yeah.
Like you treat that person almost as your own person,
Mm-hmm.
because
Yeah.
if
Yeah.
you're that kind of invested, you ask them about how's your wife, how are the kids, oh my gosh, is he crying, is in the background, can you bring him up, and sometimes even these kids grow up knowing them, and you become such a part of their life that if you had the kind of perfect relationship, I could only be so impressed, because they would, and you've seen this, like this VA, their client visited them in the
Yeah. Yeah.
Philippines,
Yeah.
and then they toured around, and some can't even be bothered.
So you mentioned about like the perfect relationship between the VA and a client. We did mention about like knowing them personally and setting that the ground rules for the relationship. What else do we think comes into play when it comes to a perfect relationship for a VA and client?
I'm gonna harp on a little bit about emotions,
Hmm.
because I thought I was done with my lead up to the last few sentences, but I forgot to mention that when it comes to emotions, I've seen people hurt beyond hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes not even by harsh words. Like, are you just gonna bleep this out if I say, like, you know, this is another, I don't need you to be a screw up.
Yeah.
I just need you to do, I just need you to do the fuck your job.
Mm.
And there are F bombs all over the conversation, but he's just like in a bad mood.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it's unavoidable that as a virtual assistant, and you're working that closely, that you'll sometimes meet your boss in different moods.
Yeah.
And for a lot of Filipinos, we wear our emotions on our
Yes, we
sleeves.
do. We do.
Like, here, emotion.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's just out in the open. And don't get me wrong, it's the kind of endearment that really gets a lot of clients to give
To work with
to work
Filipino.
with
Yeah.
Filipinos, because they feel like they can trust them.
Yes.
The going back to the hospitality, the eagerness
Mm-hmm.
to share in the business,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
as if they are running the business. Uh, but at the same time, that kind of exposed emotions can be hurt irre- uh, a lot, you know,
Like damage the relationship irrevocably.
can damage, yes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I feel like you really have to be that person, but at the same time you really have to keep a part of you away from the hurt. It's just work.
Work. Yeah, because it's a very different culture.
It's a very different culture,
Altogether.
westernized
Yeah,
cultures, you know,
yeah.
like I mean, I think here
It's very work
we're
based.
yeah,
Very, like
we're
not
careful
not
with
here.
the words
Yes, we
most
are.
of the time.
We are.
We're very, very
Filipinos
careful
are.
with. I mean, words have power, and we understand that. And in the workplace, you wouldn't really hear people dropping, you know, f bombs
Yes,
or t bombs. I guess
but
in a
the,
more local setting.
I think what you're getting at is an understanding of who you're working for, their culture,
Mm-hmm.
their personality,
Mm-hmm.
their work style.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And like I said, you usually start off with your best foot forwards.
And then the honeymoon. Are we talking about relationships or being kind? I
Yeah.
feel like
When the honeymoon period is over and you start, you know, uh, I get that's then that's the problem. That's the
yeah.
problem with relationships too.
Yes.
That when the reality sets in, you know, you're gonna have your first fight. You're gonna your first screw up,
Or let's just say
misstep,
mismatched
expectations.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and sometimes it's how do you react to that? You know,
Yeah.
like do you explode? And sometimes, you know, if you're not ready for who your client really is, it can be very damaging to the relationship. Like you could have two perfectly matched individuals, but because you're not, you know, if I, for example, would tell people that I have a very green side when dealing with people, you know, I drop really snide comments, green jokes, and you need to be prepared for that. I am not being malicious. It's just the way I find humor in things,
Yes.
and you know you kind of have to tell them that because you know you're setting your best foot forward, but at the same time
You have
when
to be
you
you.
yeah I have to be, you can't be a different person just for work. You
Yes.
can in some way you have to be
Well,
your
in some ways,
100%
yes,
authentic self.
because you know there are regulations about it,
Of
right?
course.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I
But what we were getting at is, at some point it's just gonna flow. What your personality is just gonna
yes.
show,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly. Eventually your personality will show. And again, if well, especially in the part of the client,
Yeah.
I'd rather you be more honest about that upfront that I am going to be this person that when I get mad, I might not want to talk to you for a bit. I'm going to give you a task, but I'm not going to talk to you
Yeah.
until I am in the right
Yeah. Yeah.
headspace.
Yeah.
And then you have these clients that, you know, the thing that I dread most, like when you get that what single line, we need to talk.
Yeah. Or just the name, they quiver,
They-
you know, Francis, and nothing else.
I was like, yes.
Yeah.
But you know, like I said, that's the thing. You have to be ready that you go back at the end of the day. This is work, and you will have to show your authentic side if
Yes.
you're gonna have like a really good relationship with these. You know, both actually. I mean, I said especially on the part of the client, but at the same time on the
Even
part
if
of the
it- yeah.
VA. Yeah, you can tell them, I felt hurt
Yeah.
when you said that because I felt like this. And it's valid
Yes. Especially if they keep on dropping f bombs.
and you're not comfortable with the F bombs.
Yeah.
Maybe you're not the right you know, maybe you're not the right fit for each other, but you know, maybe you can get used to it. That's a question. But the thing is you kinda have to talk it out. I guess what we're really getting at, clear communication, transparency, total expectations.
Yes.
And that's something that you continually have to work
Work on. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And eventually you can just get married. I feel like I felt like this was more relationship advice rather than work advice.
But I'm just gonna drill down on the expectations regarding work.
Mhm.
Because I've experienced this as well, where you're delegating something and it's not coming back the way you want it.
Yeah.
And it's not because um it's not done properly. It's just that
It's
how
not done the way
you
you want
want.
it.
Yeah. So there's also that realization that if you want something done a certain way, you have to communicate it.
Yeah.
You really
And
do.
the thing is, I understand exactly what you mean, and we've sort of like done that. Uh, let's talk about this work output that you did,
Yes.
and then let's point out some of the things that
Needs
I
you.
want redone because I just want it done a certain way. I mean, you
Yes.
could perfectly say, there's nothing wrong with this. It's just not done the way that I would
Respond
do
to. Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, especially if, say, for example, I don't know, let's go about some other VA tasks. Ghostwriting, obviously, you
Yeah.
have to write for a certain way. If you're helping your client write proposals, then you need to
Yes.
be able to write it as if that person
And
is
yes,
writing
yeah.
it for
Mm-hmm.
that client of theirs. Because sometimes you're technically ghost working for you're being outsourced for somebody who's working for somebody else.
Yes.
Think of it that way. Um, but if
Oh,
the
the.
work output is this and you
Mm-hmm.
need it done like this, you can't just say, "Can you redo it?" Certain points, certain bullet points.
Yeah.
You,
What I'm going to say about this is, yeah, you have to talk it out that you want it done a certain way, but you have to give that person that your VA benefit of the doubt. Like,
mhm.
don't just because they didn't provide the output the way that you expected it
It didn't
to
mean that they
be.
put in the work.
Yeah, they didn't put in the work, or that it would give you some doubt about their skill set.
Do not
Just
doubt your own skill set.
yeah,
Never.
I mean, even in the VA and the client part, like they're gonna doubt if this VA is the right fit for them just because of this one thing.
Yes, that's the
Yeah,
problem. I do
but
know that
they
kind of
didn't even
pitfall.
communicate how they want it done.
It just somehow there's that thing that starts forming in your mind when you doubt your decision to hire
Yes.
that person, and I think that's like the worst possible thing. I mean, maybe eventually yes, but you have to give them the benefit of the
Yes.
doubt that when I hired this person, I saw something in this person uh, that makes me think that I can work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah. Although let's take that to a different avenue. If you're gonna be this kind of person who wants things done a certain way, it never hurts to, like, because even with us, if we're hiring, hunting,
Hunting.
if we're hiring for a specific skill set,
Yeah.
we've had these instances when we say, can you give me some of those tasks that you need done, sample tasks I that we could use as a template in the hiring process, so that we could, so that we could say, if he does this in a way that you need, because again, sometimes they might not have time
Yeah.
to
To
train
train. Yeah.
somebody in a
Yeah.
certain way, and we
Yeah.
just
You
have
have
to
to know
find
if you have time
somebody
to
who
train.
can do that in a certain way. Nothing wrong, but the important part is, like, in at least in our case, we're helping that person find the exact
Yeah.
fit.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we've also had that instance where we talk to a client and say, this person has the right, not skill set, uh,
Attitude.
attitude. He's trainable. Do
Yeah.
you want to work with this person? But this will come with
Again,
some,
depends
yeah,
if you're willing to
if you're
train, if you're
willing to
patient
train,
enough.
or yeah, if you have the patience to guide that person
Yeah.
to be that person that you want to work with. But I would like, I'm willing to vet this person, that he has the right attitude, mindset to be a successful virtual assistant for you.
Yes.
And we can cite some very recent some very recent examples. I hope, and that's why I think, it's kind of draining personally it really feels like it's more like Match. We should rename our company to Match.com. Match your
Maybe not
VA.
that one because that one's taken.
Matchyourva.com. Meet your
Yeah.
sugar VA.
Yeah.
Wait.
But I mean, if we're talking about this, it's just it's a snippet of how we look at.
It's a very
Yeah. Yeah.
loose snippet. But if this is something that especially it's for me, it's very important to, if you're listening to this and you're a VA who has had those failed relationships in the past, to reflect back on what you think could have been done
Yeah.
better.
Could
I
have.
mean,
Yeah.
most of the time when the relationship is ruined, there's really nowhere to repair them. So it's nice to be able to start off on the right foot if
Yes.
you're an agency who does the same thing, who matches VAs to to clients. Revisit the process,
Yeah.
and check to see how successful are these matches being made, and think to yourself, how often do we end up with failed relationships, or how
Yes.
often do we have
And learn
uh
from those.
yeah
Yeah. Those
uh
failed
mm,
relationships. Yep. Mm.
yeah, and be open to, like I said, just going back to the agency part, be
Mm-hmm.
open to looking at your team, because that's your team. You're not
Yes.
gonna give them out and say, okay, good luck,
Yeah.
have a nice life. Continually review. Like, I would look. Remember when I said I would look at their resume and try to suss out
What else they can do?
what
Yeah.
else they can do, because sometimes they don't know those skill sets themselves.
Yes.
You're like, just ask
What's
them.
required
"S-
of that job?
Yeah.
Which
So
one's
when you
their
did
skills?
this,
Mm-hmm.
what else did you do? And
Yes.
you'd find out that you also did social media, and
Yeah.
then you also did like writing letters, and they
Mm-hmm.
didn't think that it's important enough to add it to the skill set, because it's just something,
Yeah.
you
They
know.
thought that they're
Yeah.
doing just naturally, but it's actually a valuable skill set.
Yeah,
Yep.
but really you want to tell them that you want to put that down,
Yes.
because if you're not going to, sometimes that's going to come out over
Yeah.
the course of the relationship, but if you let them know right in the beginning that this is where you are, and
Mm-hmm.
also put like number of stars next to the skill set, like if it's on a scale of 1 to 5, be honest enough to say how skilled are you in that area. Like, you can't just put, I did social media for a client.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't put it in the resume. I wouldn't.
Huh? What?
I
No, no,
wouldn't.
no. Because look at it this way. You actually did Photoshop for a client, for
Yeah.
example. And Photoshop in itself is a very broad
Specialized. Yeah. Yeah.
topic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes people are like, oh, yeah, I did Photoshop work for a client. But when you ask them, what exactly did you do? It's cropping images.
Yeah, this is very basic. Anyway, we're kind of going on a tangent here.
It really did.
Yeah. So
But that was fun.
yeah, VA client relationship. So just to sum it off,
Very dynamic.
very. It's a very dynamic. Yeah, it's very dynamic because
Mhm.
it's you have to start off on the right foot, right?
Yes.
But as a business
The
owner or
left foot or the
whoever
right
you
foot?
know, whoever is hiring for a VA, you have to define for yourself what you need a VA for.
If
Right.
you're gonna ask yourself what I need from my VA, and you draw a blank other than I need a VA, go back to your
Yeah.
own drawing board and
Write it down. You know
write
what?
it down.
Write all of your tasks and tick off. This is what I need my VA to do. Like all of your tasks, like even how little they are, but they're
Oh,
taking up
yeah.
so much of your mind
time.
space.
Mhm.
Write it all off. Take which ones you want to give out to your
And
VA.
put them in order.
Yeah,
And try
put them
to
in
decide
order,
for yourself
urgency. Yeah,
how many, which of these tasks fall under grunt work, and which ones can you actually let go.
yes,
Prepared to let go, because you're in pursuit of the
a
the
higher, yeah.
higher state of being. The big picture. Yeah, if you're pursuing that's very important. That's the
Yes.
reason why you're getting the VA. Somebody who's supposed to be assist. Haba ng buko. You're searching for the perfect partner for you to be able to pursue the growth of your business
Your your goals,
without
having to
letting
do,
go of
yes,
the foundational tasks that
yes,
need to be
yeah,
run
yeah,
on a daily basis.
yes.
And even if it's as little as, I need somebody to help me manage my calendar, deal with
My
ongoing,
emails, like filter my email, yeah.
proposals, incoming requests, etc. If that takes up 4 hours of your time, then it's 4 hours of your time per day well spent if you hired a VA
Yes.
to do that for you. Understand the value of what they're bringing in terms of dollar amounts. You see, that's I know that we're wrapping it up, but that's also one of the bigger things that they need to
Yes.
understand. If you're thinking about what you're spending for your VA, you're not prepared to have a VA. You're
Yeah.
supposed to understand that your VA, whatever you're paying your VA, your virtual assistant is netting you
To expand, to scale your business,
exactly
to reach for those higher goals
that it's
for the
supposed to be
business.
money
Yeah.
well
Yeah.
spent. If you're
Yes.
thinking about, if you're
Oh,
thinking about, oh
I'm
my
spending
gosh,
so
I'm
much.
paying so
Yeah.
much, then that person wasn't worth it. I'd be happy to part with money if I have to,
It's a
if
business of
it,
yum.
yeah, if I end up waking up without having to think about
But
a
it gets done.
particular task and
Yeah.
it gets
Gets done.
done
Yeah.
and it's out, like, you know, think about as little as laundry, for example. If I have to wake up and not worry about putting my clothes in the dryer, washer and
Dryer,
dryer lang.
yeah. You don't wash your
Washer
clothes.
and then dry it and then fold itself magically
Yeah,
and it
yeah,
goes
that's
back
not
to my
gonna.
closet.
Yeah.
Whatever money I spent for that, money well spent.
Yes.
But if I keep thinking about,
Because those like what 2-3 hours of doing laundry when you could have just spent it like working on your business,
yeah,
right?
expanding my business, exactly. And that's why we gladly pay for a little additional help
Yes.
for conveniences. Think of it that way. So
Yeah.
if you're thinking about what you're spending, you didn't prepare for that business enough.
Okay.
That part of your business enough. So yeah, that's something to think about,
Yeah.
and that's something for us to think about. But that I guess that that wraps up our conversation
Yes.
today, doesn't it?
Yes. Yes, it does.
There's probably more thoughts. Hey, if you had something to say, please,
If you have any comments about this, please do comment.
yeah, comment.
Yeah. And I hope you do subscribe to our YouTube channel, subscribe to this podcast.
We'll be linking all of our socials
Yes.
here, so wherever you're following us, please do. We'd love to hear back from you. But for now,
This is again Outsourcing and More with Penny and
Francis. We will see you soon next episode. Bye.